What's good? LucidAbstract, he whom pees when poos. This is going to be my top 3 classes to play in Borderlands 3 before Wonderlands. Wonderlands 2 weeks away-ish from the making of this video. I've been playing a lot of Borderlands 3, get back, get in the vibe, get ready, you know. And I've been looking through a lot of different builds, playing around with stuff, experimenting, and these 3 builds have been the ones that I've had the most fun with, and that are more feel like they have like a Wonderlandies vibe, right? So we're gonna get into them. I'm gonna show the builds, what they are, explain their playstyle, maybe the mechanic if it takes that, and show you what it can do. Let's get in it. My number 3 pick is an Amara build. I call it Dark Magic Witch. Inspired variation of Moxie's Chaos Witch. Just kind of played my own way with whatever I can find. And then we're going to get in and show you how it works. Alright, so for the build, pretty much a copy paste of Moxie's Witch. The key things to note that you're using is ties that bind. That's like, key part of the build here. It's going to be able to grab multiple enemies at once, and we're going to be using a lot. The middle skill, you're going to want to expedite. Now that it works, this thing is amazing. So this is going to allow like spam. You're going to be able to use your action skill over and over and over again, and it's kind of needed for this build, right? So alright, here's blue tree. You can pause and copy paste it if you need to, whatever. Red tree. Green and the purple tree. That's the build. The things you need gear wise, I went with the phase circuit, so I don't have the god rolls on the stats, but it doesn't matter because we're getting what we need out of it. So when I'm using my action skill, it gives me the rush stacks, which is weapon damage and action skill rate. If you dry fire, you can build your stacks up. So this is kind of like one of the mechanics you gotta do. You gotta like warm up your stacks before you like go in and do stuff. So now my stacks are at like X99 on both. And I'm getting the max I can out of them. So this build takes a little bit of upkeep because you gotta kind of like remember to always keep your stacks up, but it works really well that way. The next thing is going to be, I have the Revolter. That's because it gives like extra lightning damage to everything, so it's really good to have. But a keynote I wanted to make on this is that I went with Terror Anointments. So on my shield I have, after phase grasping an enemy, Amara fires terror skulls at the grasped target, and these things do a lot of damage. So this whole build is pretty much like using that as its first initial attack. So after you use your skill once, the next time that it's up, you'll be terrified, because on the grenade I have the anointment at action skill end, apply terror to yourself every 3 seconds. So every time you use your ties that bind, you're putting terror on yourself, and then every time you're grabbing them, you're shooting skulls at them. So as long as we're keeping a small action skill cooldown and we're using this constantly, we're shooting skulls constantly. I went with a plasma coil I usually run. I ran out of iridium trying to get the right anointment. The anointment I would like for this build will be another terror anointment, and it is the one that regenerates ammo while terrified, because this plasma coil will burn through ammo like crazy with this build. But it is so much fun. So I feel like giving it the ammo regeneration will keep it alive so you don't run out of ammo halfway through the map. I was using consecutive hits, but honestly, like, you get so much damage from this that it's okay to sacrifice that to keep the ammo in your pocket. And the artifact, I just went with the toboggan for, you know, obviously the slide speed. Mara's a little slow, so it helps getting around the damage reduction and the amp damage. I got action skill cooldown on this one, and like I said, I'm trying to be able to cast this like it's a spell every single time that it's up. So for playstyle, with the toboggan, if you slide, you get the little bubble that can either protect you or give you the amp damage. So I always like to start out with that so that we go in with a good shot. And I got a Hellwalker just because the initial damage is hard hitting. So we'll go in, we'll slide, we'll grab someone, hit him with this, it hits hard, and I'm pretty much just gonna plasma coil everything and everything's gonna die. Now that I have terror stacks on me, the next thing that I grab shoots out those skulls, and those skulls just one-shot it. My skill cooldown is at like 5 seconds. The more I kill, the shorter it is. So as long as I'm popping this and those skulls are killing things, then I'm just constantly getting my skills back. The other thing to see is that when you kill things and that little orb flies off and kills things, that can like one-shot right there. That orb right there, that'll hit things and just like completely delete them. With the gun damage you get from this, you could literally get right back up. You just spray something down and it pops you right back up. And that's without even using the stacks. So now when we do the dry fire mechanic and we keep these stacks up, our damage is going to be that much more insane. Like I said, this SMG will eat through your ammo, so I do recommend like the ammo regeneration one for the terror anointment, because the way this build works, you're always gonna have your terror up because you're always using your action skill. So now this one I'm gonna pre-charge it just so we have like max damage going in. Go in, grab one, just spam it, kills them all. Got a short cooldown, high gun damage. That orb went the wrong way. The AI in the orb is not the greatest. It kind of has like a mind of its own and it doesn't really target things. But if you kill something small next to something big, like that's the mechanic that's going to get the best out of the orb, right? And you kind of want to try and throw in slides, but with the plasma, it's not like the amp shot doesn't really do much because it's a lot of smaller orbs versus if you had the Hellwalker, you wanted to switch to like shotgun mode and slide in on something and just one shot it, then that works too. So like I'm kind of combining a bunch of the different mechanics here that are fun to play with and using them like all in one. So those skulls will just pop things, and it's a way to target them. There's other things in this game that, you know, give those skulls, but they don't really target the ads. Whereas with the phase grasp one, you can actually choose the target that the skulls are going to go after because it's going after whoever you phase grasp. And I mean, that makes a whole big difference. Another build that I'm going to show has some skulls in it, and those ones are not targetable. You can't like tell them where to go. They go where they want to go. Now for grenade for this, I felt like I went with Mesmer because I kind of felt like that was fun to add to like a witch's spell book, and I feel like the use of this as CC really gets overlooked because if you go into a MOBA ads and you hit the first guy that comes at you, you know, kind of mind controls him, confuse him, makes him go around, and he will tank things for you. He'll take the damage and he'll shoot back at them, and it keeps you from getting hurt. So like say like a melee guy is chasing you up into your face, you can throw one of these down and turn him around real quick. This build is like super fun for mobbing. It can boss, but with the ties that bind, it makes mobbing so fun. So I'll show you how quick we can clear a room. Full stacks going in. We're gonna grab one and just start popping, and then all of our things are gonna start stacking and proccing, right? We'll phase grass the first guy, take him out, practically clears the room. Get a quick amp charge. Always be sliding to get the amp charge as much as you can. Now this is the second phase grasp. We get the skulls hit it. Wipe it up with the radiation. Look at that, the skulls almost completely take all of his health. See, now there's a group, I can mind control one of them. They're fighting, keeps them off of me, reducing damage. Pop one of them, they're all dead. The CC control of this build is amazing. And it's so much fun watching everything just explode all over. With those skulls doing the initial damage, it's like it's hitting all of them with tons of damage. That orb right there, look at that, one shot him, popped him. We'll get the Tron and show you how it does on bossing. Alright, so the mechanic for bossing with this build is a little different than you would think. You're not going to be phase grasping the boss, you're going to be phase grasping any adds that are next to it. Because if you kill the smaller thing, it'll pop the orb and the orb will go and hit the big guy and do way more damage. So, for example, with Trant here, we'll go in, we'll burn down his shields and then the adds will spawn, and then we're going to kill one of the adds and use the orb to kill him. So now the adds are here. We're gonna grab the ad, skulls will kill him, and the orb just will one-shot him. Alright, my last note for the Samara build is that keep in mind to switch your element to whatever you're fighting. So like if you're fighting fleshies, use fire. So that way you're getting that extra fire damage on everything that your ties touch. If you're going to be fighting a bunch of robots or armored, you know, switch to corrosive. And everything is going to be spreading the corrosive damage, burning down the armor. If you're fighting a lot of shielded energy based health pools, then you can go with electricity. You can do that simply just by hovering over the element you have and unequipping, because shock is the basic element. And then it spreads shock damage everywhere. And your orbs will be in shock.
Already forgot about you. I am brimming. Making it. Eyes up, gonna target.
Alright, so moving on. My choice for number 2 is a flak build. It is an inspired variant of Spartan's Spellcaster flak build. And this build is a lot of fun. So for this one, I've been calling it Necromancer flak. You'll see why when it gets going. These are the build trees. It's a rack build, rack attack. This is red. Not using any in green. This is the purple tree. The blue tree. Back to the red. So, start off. Pretty much gonna have the Guardian in her hand most of the time, because the damage boost it gets from being far away from your target. You need this. This is like the one thing that you really need is this class mod, the Peregrine. Whenever rack hits an enemy, they drop a grenade. So using that mechanic, we'll be using the Ghast Call grenade, which is from the Terror. Place Heck. I'm using a red suit because it's just happens to be the best shield I have on this guy right now. That will give me radiation immunity, and me and my pet will both be doing radiation damage. And I have the anointment of an extra rack attack because the more of those that we can shoot out, the better. I'm using a deathless to get extra damage from only having 1 health. But there are better ones to use. This one, when you slam, you get a radiation aura around you. But there are better ones that you can use to drop AoEs on the ground, and those ones are the best. And if you can get it with area of effect damage, which I use this sometimes just because it has area effect damage on it, because that will add to your damage of this build. So the way this one works is your gun damage is going to be kind of shit, but this lucky guy, but you're going to be spamming this, and every time those hit, they drop a grenade, and then they're going to drop heavy grenades that are going to spam and spread and just do tons of damage. And you're also going to be using that grenade with it to complement it. The thing is the anointments I went with, again, are terror anointments. I have the terror builder on the Guardian. When action skill ends, it puts terror on me, so every time I use my rack, I'm getting terror on me. And now this grenade, when you have terror on you and you use it, it works more efficiently. It generates more skulls, and I believe they do more damage. So once I go in and shoot the first rack, all the grenades I throw after that when I'm terrified will have more amplified amount of skulls. And just to show the strength of this build, we're going to go in and we're going to burn this boss down. I usually go in, I hit him with 1 rack. That'll get the terrified up, and then I can throw grenades, so they'll be hitting 2. And then I just pretty much just spam this as much as I can, right? It's like shooting fireballs from far away. Every time those racks are hitting, they're dropping those grenades, spawning all those skulls. Those skulls are just going to go crazy and just eat everything alive. Dr. Benedict doesn't even exist anymore. If you notice about this build, you will be spamming stuff all over the place, so you will frequently get knocked down, but as long as you've used your ability a bunch, there'll be damage just bouncing around everywhere, and it will kill something and get you up. So it's kind of like a glass cannon build, but it works pretty efficiently, and I'll show you as we go in and we'll do a little bit of mobbing. You can see how everything will just spread around, and these skulls will just eat anything that you can get them hands on. We'll shoot some racks down there and I'll stop. You can just see them jumping around from one to the other. They just destroy everything they touch. Now when you start spamming this and you're throwing your grenades at the same time, they'll spread around, and as you can see, I went down, but they're just doing so much damage and eating everything that it just gets me right back up. Now I got my racks off right before they hit me, so by the time they got to him and killed him, I was already back up from being knocked. And so, since we're using the Guardian basically just for its damage amplification, we're going to be trying to stay as far back as we can to get the max amount. So I'm going to go in and kind of show you how this works at like full velocity. We can just go in and start spamming. After the first one, our terror's up, so I can start using grenades. A little mini boss over here, so you can kind of show how much damage these things can do. As you can see, like a couple rack attacks and a single grenade just engulfs everything in a cloud of souls, and those spawn out, and those go after anything that is around, and it abolishes everything. It is so fun to just run through and stay back like a mage, shoot fireballs, and then watching the souls leak out and destroy everything else. And it's just a massive amount of damage. It's just such a fun build to run around with. Now, I wanted to do a little honorable mention for this. If you had gotten the Butt Stallion pack from this, you can swap out Ghost Call or Gas Call with the Diamond Butt Bomb. Now, you get anointment out of it because Gas Call can't come with anointments, but the fun of this, since they're dropping grenades and your grenade is a butt bomb, it's just shooting rainbows and unicorns everywhere, and then you're using your grenade shooting butt stallions everywhere. This is fun. This is not the greatest for mobbing and not exactly gonna get you up as well as the skulls would, but it is so much fun for mobbing, and it's very colorful. The humor of just the rainbow unicorn butt stallions exploding all over the place, and if you're spamming this, like, they're everywhere. Butt stallion away! These skulls really shine when you have a lot of ads in a spread out area, because then they can really spread out and do their thing, and you can get a good view of them doing it. Look at it, just a trail of the skulls, just immediately ate that little mini boss like it didn't even chew its food, it just swallowed its whole. This has gotta have been one of the most fun builds I've played recently. And with the, action cooldown being low, you're just spamming it. You're just shooting these out everywhere, and the skulls are doing all the work. Clear the whole map. Alright, coming to my number one. The one that I probably played the most and used the most for farming. And there will be a flash warning. The pollution is great. It's a Zane build. Some have dubbed it, more explosion, Moxie calls it, other call it the long winter. I like to call it Eraserhead, because this entire build, pretty much, as long as you have Eraser, it'll work however you want to use it. So let's get in it. Alright, so as I said, the key feature, Eraserhead, is Eraser. So Eraser here, this is what's going to be doing all the things that we needed to do. So the build varies depending on where you look around. This is just the one that I felt most comfortable with, right? So let me show you the skills. This is purple, blues, red, green. I'm really only using a shield from the green for the damage and the cannon and whatnot, brain drain and proliferation.
I'm waiting.
The complex root is pretty much going to be the main weapon of this build. I mean, there's other things that work, but for the way that I use it, I went and farmed up some rifles to where I have pretty much each element that I need, right? So with Zane and the build, we get immunity to explosive splash damage and ice, right? Well, not to the slow, but to the ice damage itself. So keep that in mind. Most of the time using Infernal Wish for the extra projectile, and the Hustler mod is the must here. This is what allows the Racer to trigger and jump around and do all the crazy things it's gonna do. It's like a pretty fireworks show. Splash damage radius. If you can god roll this with splash damage and the radius, and you know, this is the best that I got is the radius at the moment. So rock the toboggan. You definitely want area effect damage on there. You need the toboggan for the amp damage with the slide. Takes a little finesse, but once you get it down, it's pretty easy, and you'll know what you're doing. The grenade doesn't really matter. Pretty much, I just use it for the anointment that I had on it, which buffs the cryo damage because I run around with cryo most of the time at this. You can switch it out the shields, because if I'm running around with radiation, then I wear the red suit. If I'm running around or I gotta kill something with a lot of shield, then I'll swap to the transformer. Those are pretty much for the immunity. You do get the shield back from the transformer. Red suit does a little damage, whatever. The complex routes, the hustler, the toboggan are pretty much the key elements to this. The rest you can kind of swap out to your leisure. Other guns do work, but I'll show you how I use it. Alright, so before we start whiting out the screen and taking away what's going on, I'm going to explain the finesse to this build and how to play it, right? So one of the first mechanics you're going to need to know and build on is the toboggan, which is an amp damage from slide. You run, you slide, you can see the UI around the corners, you kind of see that you have a shield on. While that shield's on, it can either absorb damage and go away, or you shoot something and it will give it amp damage. That amp damage in this build will spread with all the stuff that we're doing, and everything will get amped. That's the first stack damage that we're putting on there, right? We're also going to be using the shield. You keep your shield on, so shooting through your shield gives it even more damage. And as you can see, all the skills at the bottom, when we use this, we stack those up. So we're going to have this stacked to the highest that we can, right? The 2s. And this keeps our shield up. So you want to be doing that. But I'm also using splash damage annoyance for our action skill end. So every time I use my cannon, it's proccing this anointment. And so what I want to do is use that anointment at the right time to where it's procced when it needs to be procced. So for example, before I do all the stuff combined, the amp damage, wearing the shield, and proccing the anointment, I want to have the anointment procced at first before the shot, then shoot, and then momentarily right after that first shot I'm going to hit the cannon again to proc the anointment again, so the anointment's still running while those procs are jumping around from ad to ad, exploding, doing whatever. So I'm keeping that proc up. So what you want to do is focus on getting the highest damage shot that you can. This isn't about spamming, it's about finesse and shooting the highest damage shot that you can to spread out, and then keeping your buffs up with your cannon. As long as you're doing that, everything is just going to freeze and break and crumble into ashes. You won't even see half of it because it will be flashing all over the screen. So this is the warning, your flash warning, seizure warning. If you're prior, don't just close your eyes. All right, I'm gonna run through here. I'm gonna show you how it's done, right? So first thing we do, we throw down our shield, pop our shield on, and then I usually hit a cannon right away so that it's on full stacks. And then run and slide. And you want to shoot it at the fastest speed that you can, right? But the other thing is you also want to be looking down sights, because while looking down sights, you're getting another damage buff from Zane's build. So run, slide, jump, shoot with aim down, and then proc the cannon right before it clicks, right? I'm hoping I've stacked this in the right order. So as you can see, I haven't shot again. It's still just jumping around, popping stuff, destroying stuff. Now it's ready. One note is right after you do it, you will get slowed a little bit. So to get your next amp charge, you're gonna have to run and wait a second. Now sometimes it doesn't really matter where you shoot as long as you get a good shot that doesn't hit a wall and destroy itself. But what I like to do is hit it hit it just next to their head, or passing them so that it goes through whoever you hit travels more and ticks for higher damage. As you can see, when it went through and it ticked and it jumped over here and then over there, it cleared the room instantly in one shot. So you want to focus on having an amp bubble, running at max speed, aiming down sight, and proccing your frost cannon. So you're stacking all that damage, and you want to stack all that damage into that one shot, and that one shot with this rifle is just going to spam all around, all over the place, and kill everything, just like that, in a flash. And now this does work with, you know, bosses and stuff too. Bosses that have multiple hit spots, it will just jump around and erase them. It's named quite well, Eraser. It erases everything. Now, I know there's things that are immune to frost. I like frost because it freezes everything, stops them in their tracks. And if you're going to use a different element, you know, say we're going to use radiation, we swap out with our different shield for the immunity. I'll swap to my rifle with radiation. But the rest, the finesse of it, is still the same. Do your slide to get your bubble, shoot at full velocity, proc the cannon, and it'll just jump around and kill everything. So that's good for stuff that like might be immune to frost. You could use radiation, or you throw on a transformer. And here's the other thing, when you go down, I'm showing you the one shot away. You could just spam this and it'll just kill everything. If you ever get down, you could just spam it in the air and it's bound to hit something because the splash damage radius and the effect are buffing that. So for example here, we'll try it with a shock. This guy right here, gone. So just to show the strength of this build, I could go down with like no buffs, shoot through a badass, sit back, so even if you don't do the finesse right, this build is still super strong, but if you do the finesse right, the amounts of damage you can do can completely erase bosses too. It's Anointment. He's gone. Hardened Badass. 3 bars of health. Okay. We're gonna run around here, do the little bubble, shoot at max speed, proc cannon. Everything's pretty much dead. One unbuffed shot right through it. Letting it jump around. They're dying as they spawn.
Teach you how to fight.
It makes such a perfect farming build because you just run in, you just shoot somewhere aimlessly, it clears the room, the legendary drops, you hear the noise and you see it on the map. You're like, hey, I'll wander over here. What do we got, you know? Same old, same old. Move right along, shoot a thing. Bam your cannon. Keep your shield up. Everything's dead.
Could use some cover.
Might not come out. Shoot it in the air somewhere. Keep cannon buffs up.
Parents should be ashamed of you.
All dead. Everything's dead. No buffs. Still dead. No buffs.
Must be Joe. Possible you picked the wrong battle. Don't you cross this line.
Just one tap bosses. Now, the real fun with this build came when I started using it to farm, and I got hooked on trying to see how many bosses I could one tap and kill them with finesse of one shot. And Locomobius is like a really good one to practice on because it has a lot of spread out spots for it to jump. But as you can see, the right finesse, one tap, free loot.
Let's have it. Delusions of escape.
The shield is done.
Use some cover. Stupid zero tech.
This build does work with other weapons. I just like to use the simplicity of the complex route. You can also use like heavies, like anything with a large splash damage radius, like the Creamer works great, the Nukem, the Yellow Cake. It'll pretty much all trigger the eraser and jump around and destroy stuff, as long as you play it right. And so this has been Lucid Abstract. So it's my top 3 builds to try before Wonderlands. I hope you guys get good luck getting the items and checking them out. Let me know if you liked them. I don't see you in Borderlands, I'll see you in Wonderlands. If you want to help out the channel in any way, help us grow, we'll appreciate it.